I talk about insulin resistance, some linked disorders, ways to get over it, ways to tell it to you, everything insulin resistance that I can bring up, I do. And I do it because I had insulin resistance and didn't know it. I didn't know that's what was going on. And so I found a protocol that helped me. And yes, I'm going to share that too. But let's talk about something that I saw yesterday because I always see the craziest things when I'm out there lurking the internet. And I was on another health person who's way bigger than me on their page and reading through some of their posts and looking at some of the comments. And it was a video that they had done with Dr. Mindy Pelz. Now, she is technically a fasting expert. She's also a physician, but she talks a lot about fasting and especially for women. And in the video, she was talking about training fasted. So I want to get into this morning. I want to help dispel some myths, uncover some lies, tell some truths, and let you guys know what reality really is with fasting and insulin sensitivity. Because the opposite of insulin resistance is insulin sensitivity. Now, before I get started, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not any of that. I'm just a real world person like you who got better and decided to start figuring out why all the doctors, nutritionists, gym bros, everybody couldn't help me. And multiple of them even threw their hands up and said, I don't know what to do. Well, look, I didn't know what to do either, so I had to figure it out. Now, I've leaned into metabolic scientists who actually know what they're talking about, who actually study fat cells in petri dishes, and I've listened to a number of people, and I listen to people from both sides to try and determine what fits for me. So it's not like I have this one-sided view. I listen to people who are vegan. I listen to people who are carnivore. I listen to for God's sakes, I listen to Dr. Gundry too and try to decipher what he's saying, which is just I can't with him. Anyway, so fasting. So some of the people in the comments were like yoga people or other gym bros or whatnot, and they're like, "You're telling me to fast during training, so all the muscle that I'm trying to build is getting eaten up because I don't have energy for that muscle to work on." And they were appalled, and there was just comment after comment after comment after comment about how training fasted was going to cost you muscle, was going to eat up your muscle, and how it's the worst idea ever, and how this doctor's off her rocker and not giving people good ideas. So the type of fasting that Mindy Pelz is talking about doing training fasted is not like a 5-day fast, a 10-day fast where you've depleted all your glycogen, where you've depleted a lot of your fat stores. And now at that point, at those 10 days in, at those 14 days in, yeah, you are at risk of losing muscle. So what Mindy Pelz is talking about is either like a 16-8 fast where you abstain from eating for 16 hours and eat during an 8-hour window, up to like a 36-12 fast, which is what I've been doing this month. So I fast for 36 hours. Today happens to be an eating day. Yay! Okay. So I get to eat in a 12-hour window. Now I'm still focused on proteins and fats, limiting my carbs. But if I were to train this morning, would I be eating up the muscle that I'm trying to gain because I'm in a fasted state? No, I wouldn't. We need to understand metabolism and how the body goes. So the first thing I want to say is this. If you think that your body is going to eat up muscle when there's dead cells, when there's fat cells, when there's other cells that just need to be utilized and gotten out of the body, if you think that your body, and I'm going to be blunt about this. If you think that your body is just that blind ass, dumb, stupid, that it's going to eat up your muscle when there's other sources of fuel there, we need to rethink how we think about our body. God, I just sounded like somebody I don't want to sound like. But here's the thing with our metabolism, we burn sugar or we burn fat. Fasting just means we're no longer burning sugar. We're utilizing those sugar stores, getting rid of them. And now, when we've gotten rid of that sugar, we can actually start to turn to fat and some of these other cells that need to go away. and during autophagy and the fasting period when we're trying to get when glucagon, the opposite of insulin, is trying to get your blood sugars back up. It's doing it by breaking down these fat stores where the sugars were stored in the first place. We're now burning fat for fuel, but we are not burning muscle until we deplete all the glycogen stores, which are packaged little sugar molecules in our liver, and all the fat stores that we have, then, or a majority of the fat stores that we have, then only then are we going to start hitting that where we're burning muscle for energy. That's basically starvation mode by the time we get there. Stop thinking that you can't train fasted or that's not good for you, as opposed to what all of these gym bros are saying. And look, I've been around a lot of them. So those of you who don't know, I was a world champion powerlifter. I won 4 consecutive world championships, gold medals in all of them. The last one, when my health was deteriorating, I took a silver and a bronze in some of the, I think I took a bronze in one of the, but I took the overall gold. The crazy thing is, and I had multiple doctors, including a dentist, tell me that he had never seen so much muscle in the jaw of a woman. Now, I never did steroids. I was lifted in a very strictly tested federation, but I trained fasted all the time. I often competed fasted. Now, why would I do that? Because I didn't need excess weight. I lifted in the heavyweight division, but I was also the lightest heavyweight on the platform, almost every competition. My metabolism meant that I wasn't getting down to that next rank down, so I was always stuck in the super heavies, okay, or the heavyweight. But there's a whole lot of things that go on with that. I'm not going to get into that, but that lighter weight was an advantage when it came time to podium if there was ever a tie. So here's the thing. I trained fasted all the time. I had a great deal of muscle. I set world records. I won world championships. Does that sound like somebody who's eating up all their muscle and depleting themselves by training fasted? So what's really happening when you're training fasted as far as this 16-8 to 36-12 type of fasting is that now you've depleted the sugar stores. Now your muscles are actually open and ready for energy when it comes in, allowing you to reduce the insulin resistance. So what I did, there was a program called carb backloading, and this was before I understood insulin resistance, but there was this program called carb backloading, and it terrified me because it required me to train fasted, and then I had my carbohydrates within a 2-hour window after working out. Why do that? Because they had it right. Our muscles, after we've worked out, they're like little Pac-Man. Now they're open and they're hungry and they want energy. So now is the time when, if we're going to have carbohydrates, now is the time, if we're going to have that stuff, we can have it after we work out in that first 2-hour period before the muscles are like, okay, I'm good. Because now all of that glycogen or that glucose is going into the muscle and feeding the muscle, not making you more insulin resistant. But if you feed yourself before you go in to work out, all you're doing is burning off the energy you put in, and you're not creating more insulin sensitivity, because now when you eat later, the muscles are already full. And so they're not taking it in, and they're, in essence, staying a little bit insulin resistance. I hope this makes sense. But just stop with the fear that you're creating this thing where when you train fasted, you're utilizing your muscle and you're not being able to put on muscle during those states. I did, and a lot of the powerlifters that I worked out with and the ones at high levels where I hung out, a lot of them trained fasted because they understood this. They understood that, hey, if I train and then I go have a big meal and have what I want afterward, that meal is going to get eaten up by those muscles that just worked damn hard. Now, I only did carb backloading on days where it was like a squat day or a deadlift day, because those are whole body movements that take a whole lot of energy. A bench day, I never carb backloaded on that because that wasn't enough for me to have this extreme hunger. But I was insulin resistant at the time, but it was being managed because I was doing things like training fasted and doing this carb backloading where I only ate carbs in this specific window after I had a really heavy workout. So I don't know how many of you guys have heard or feel like, man, I can't fast and train. And that's a big flaw with this whole system is that I can't fast and train or I'm depleting my muscle stores. If you guys have ever heard, and it's not no judgment because we've all heard it. I've been there, I heard it too. That if we train fasted, we're eating up our muscle stores. So if you guys have ever heard that, please put a one in the comments so I know if I'm because it can't just be the gym bros that were on that video yesterday that felt that way or heard that way. And maybe you go to the gym and your gym bro is telling you this, that you got to have a banana before you eat. You've got to have some kind of carbohydrate before you train. Sorry, a banana before you train. What you're doing is spiking your insulin up and you're getting that insulin resistant state cued before you and you're actually when you're eating before you train, you're actually shutting down your muscle being able to use the insulin when it comes because when you front load, your muscles aren't hungry enough yet and that energy is actually going other places than your muscle. It takes a while for that muscle to be able to go, oh, hey, I'm hungry and I'm going to utilize this. That's why the 2 hour window after. Put a one in if you've heard that training fasted is going to cost you muscle or that fasting itself is going to eat up your muscle. Is it safe to do 36-12 Monday through Friday? Usually I do not eat Monday, Wednesday, Friday every week. That's perfect. Nettie, that's perfect. So 36-12 is an interesting fast. Some people who are fairly metabolically healthy do it once a month just to kind of reset, clean up the metabolism, get it going again. Some people do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, like you're doing, and then have the weekends to just eat normally. Some people like me, and I originally did this for a month. Now I'm about 2 weeks in, but I love the way my body feels. I love the control I feel. Autism, ADHD, I have impulse control problems. I have satiety problems. I have whatever. But whatever it is in my brain, I can say I I can make it through one day, right? I can make it through one day of not eating and look at all the benefits I'm going to get if I just allow this body that's carrying some excess fat to wait for one day before I eat. And then like today, so what I'm going to do today, I'm going to make sure that I'm getting in the protein that I need that I should have gotten yesterday and that I should be getting today. So I'm going to try to get in about 200 grams of protein today. That's a lot. That in itself keeps me away from a lot of carbohydrates. If I focus on proteins and fats today, I'm going to be super full. I'm going to be getting in the nutrients that I need, but I'm not going to be leaning on carbohydrates as much as I would normally when I'm eating every day. So, yeah, you can do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that's fine. You can do it once a month. You can do it once a week. You can do it every other day, like me, if you have a lot of excess weight. Now, if you're already relatively lean, I wouldn't and have not got a lot of other metabolic related disorders. I don't know that I would do a 36-12 fast all month like I'm doing. I would maybe do it a couple of days a week, once a week, something like that. I hope that answers that. So you have about 60 pounds to lose, Nettie. So this 36-12 fast that I'm doing, let's talk about that. So not only is it not costing me muscle, let's talk about a couple of things. I still work out. I'm working into working out more regularly again. But what I've set up for myself, because if you know me, everything has to be slated, everything has to be planned, or I lose track. So today's an eating day, which means I just fasted, and I actually fasted for 2 days. This last time I did a butter only day. Dr. Bosworth talks about that. And that was interesting. I don't know if I will ever look at butter the same, but it was in an attempt to help my metabolism further learn to switch to fat burning. Um, where was I going with that? I don't know. We lost track. Let's see. What was the question? You have about 60 pounds to lose. Okay, great. So If you have about 60 pounds to lose, one of the great things with the 36-12 fast is we are teaching our body to switch metabolically. The hard truth is that most of us have our metabolism stuck in sugar burning mode. Why would that be? Because of the bagged, boxed, barcoded foods that are out there that we all eat every day, the fast foods, even the restaurant foods are fast foods. You know that a lot of like Applebee's, a lot of those foods are pre-packaged, like they just basically warm them up and give them to you. Not a healthy way to eat. Like nothing against Applebee's, but let's be real about what we're eating when we go out. Eat at home. But if we're stuck in sugar burning mode because of this food system that we're being given, and the fact that there are so many people out there saying eat every 2 hours, now all you're doing is training your body to rely on that fuel more. We're stuck. We're stuck, and our body just doesn't know how to switch. So, things like the 36-12 fast help your body learn how to get unstuck. But I wanna go back to the first thing I said. It absolutely is not burning up your muscle as long as there's fat to be burnt when we're doing a 30 up to a 36 and 12 fast. Now, there's a lot of science that says after about hour 48, now at that hour, we are starting to look at the possibility of losing muscle, right? So this is why I stop at a 36-hour fast. Now I've done 3-day fasts, I've done 5-day fasts, I've done 10-day and 7-day fasts just to see how my body responded, what was going on with my blood sugars, all of that. It was interesting, not something I want to do again. The 36-12 fast, now that I understand the science behind it, I really, really like it. Again, for my brain, because I can make it through one day of anything. And then guess what? Today, like today, is an eating day. So I'm going to focus on prioritizing protein and fats and my fiber, of course. But if I want to have a Butterfinger today, or because I say that because there's one in my drawer, or if I want to have some kind of other thing, that's not as healthy, I can have it today. But guess what? I'm eating less of those things when I do the 36-12 fast than my ADHD brain calls for when I eat every day. And thank you for that, Mickey. Thank you. As I try to give a lot of value and I appreciate all of your comments. So stop being so afraid of fasting, you guys. It's actually really good for you. There's so much science coming out that shows how good it is for your heart, how good it is for your liver and your kidneys and your stomach and your intestines. But, for me, one of the reasons I'm doing a 36-12 fast is not a weight loss effort. It's about my heart. So I've been more open about talking about it this last month or so, but last spring and summer, I had multiple silent heart attacks. So it I was terrified. You guys, I was in a funk because I was so scared that not because of my current lifestyle, and this is why I'm here talking about this. I'm going to cry because I hope to God that one person hears me that's in their 30s, that's in their 40s, and isn't as cavalier as I was and says, hey, I need to take this serious so they don't end up where I'm at. I'm struggling to get my heart health back from 30 years of hypertension. So this fasting, this 36-12 fasting is actually strengthening my heart. It's giving me heart health back, combined with the fact that I'm focusing on proteins and healthy fats. Healthy fats not what you guys are told. I'll tell you what those are if you guys want. If you want to know what actual healthy fats are, put a 1 in, and we're going to break down fats today too. But put a 1 in if you want to hear what those are. So, how does fasting help hair loss? Okay, so this is really interesting. You're instantly doing this. Thank you for the great info. Yeah, great. And I hope that's what I would hope. You guys, here's the thing: the protocol that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, and we are going to talk about a protocol that I use myself, and it's amazing. It's like all the other crazy stuff I do, and I do some. But the one thing that I will not stop doing, I've done it for 3 years and it's completely changed my health, is this protocol. So I really hope you give it a try, Judy, because it is it Judy? Yes. Because you'll probably be very surprised. I don't share enough success stories. I keep saying that. But I was going through a bunch of texts that I saved and I was blown away by the people who write me and tell me I've lost weight. My heart, somebody wrote me and said in 1 month their father's blood pressure was down already. Like it's just those things where people are finding hope, where people are finding health again that make this worthwhile for me to come in here and do this. So, how does fasting help hair loss? Let's talk about that. In women, male pattern baldness, and in men, it has to do with hormones, right? We have to understand that insulin is a hormone. So insulin, and what was it with Dr. Bosworth? Dr. Bos was talking about insulin and she said I always called it a bully. She called it a dictator. And I love that she called it a dictator. So insulin is like a dictator when it's out in your body, when it's such high levels that we now are insulin resistant, it's dictating what happens to your other hormones. And not just things like cortisol, leptin, ghrelin, your hunger and satiety hormones. It's dictating what your thyroid does. It's dictating how your sex hormones, your androgens and estrogens are produced. And this is where the key is. So with hair loss, it's highly tied to something called PCOS, and this is what's happening. With insulin resistance, what's happening is in a woman's body, we're going to talk about women first. In a woman's body, we start off with androgens, okay? Those androgens then get converted into estrogens. And does anybody know where that conversion happens? Where we women take that testosterone and convert it into estrogens that we need. Do you know where that happens? Can you guys type it in if you know? Diane, thank you for that answer. So it should be self-evident in the PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Okay, so we're converting testosterone to estrogen in our ovaries. Insulin resistance causes a disruption in the entire process. I'm not going to get into today, but it causes a disruption, making it much harder for androgens to convert to estrogens. This is also why women are having irregular periods and are not able to conceive, why they're getting hair on their face and losing hair on their head. Too much androgens, not enough estrogens. Too much androgens in a woman, male pattern baldness. Reverse the insulin resistance, become insulin sensitive, allow those ovaries to do the job they're supposed to do with those androgens. Now you're not overloaded with testosterone, acne, hair on your face, losing hair on your head, anxiety problems, anger problems, weight problems, all of that. All of that goes away when we get the dictator to take a seat. Okay, that's what's happening. So fasting is allowing us to put that dictator in its seat. Okay, you're very, very welcome. Natty, you're very welcome. She says, thank you for explaining that. So now, when that dictator is put in its seat, so let's talk about the timeline. This timeline I love so much, and this is why we do a 16-8 fast, and this is what I normally do, but I'm doing the 36-12 for my heart right now, and seeing so many other benefits in my sleep patterns, in my energy patterns. But let's talk about the fasting timeline. Okay. So my last meal was 2 days ago at about 8 p.m. because when I do a 36-12 fast, I have a hard time getting all my nutrients in a shorter time window. So it does extend 8 hours. Okay. So 8 p.m. is when I had my last meal. About 2 hours after that is when my blood sugars would be at their peak from that meal. Because remember, it's not like, oops, I put this in my face and now my blood sugars are high. Your body has a process. It has to go through. You have to digest and you chew stuff. You want to chew stuff because that creates enzymes that help break down the food. Okay. When we're drinking stuff, juices, smoothies, protein shakes, we're just not getting those enzymes created that we need that are created in our jaws or through us chewing. Then it's got to go down and go down and go into the stomach. And then the stomach gets a hold of it and it starts to break it down. The stomach is really acidic, right? And it's breaking all this down. And then when the stomach is done with it, it starts to pass it out into your small intestine. Somebody asked about SIBO the other day. Yes, SIBO is a big issue with all of this too. So now it's in the small intestine. Now it starts it starts being pulled through the small intestine into the bloodstream. This is where your nutrients are being absorbed, where the sugar is being absorbed. All of this is happening. But you know that it's going to take some time for all that to happen. It takes an hour to 2 hours for the stomach to get done with its job so it can get to the small intestine. Now the bloodstream it's got to start soaking into the bloodstream, and it's got to fill the bloodstream up. And now is when your blood sugars are their highest from your meal. 2 hours for all that to happen, right? Another 2 hours for your body for insulin to go, oh, hey, there's sugar here. We got to go deliver all that sugar to the body because the body needs energy. So let's go do our job. Now, at this point, insulin is starting to deliver the sugar to the system. Sugar's up in the bloodstream, but that doesn't mean it's gotten in everywhere. Insulin is the key that unlocks the cells to allow that energy or glucose in. So at about hour 4, insulin has done most of its job and the blood sugars start to drop again. Now, between hours 4 and hours 8, most of us are so insulin resistant that insulin is like, I got a job to do. This person eats every 2 hours. I'm going to stay out here. I'm going to stay high. I'm going to keep doing my job. So it could be about 8 hours. And in some people who are extremely insulin resistant, it could be even longer before that insulin comes back down. 135 at nighttime is not that bad in actuality. So it depends on how long before that you ate. There's a reason they do a fasting blood sugar, and it's because we don't want this interruption between whatever you ate causing a higher blood sugar spike. We want to see what your blood sugar is right at without having food in your system. But let's get back to the fasting timeline. So, about 8 hours after your last meal, before insulin, the dictator, actually takes a seat. Okay. That dictator now is put in his place and taking a seat. Now, when the dictator is not out and active, then the other hormone, the component hormone, because everything in the world is yin yang, right? There's opposite sides to everything. Now, glucagon, the component to insulin, can come out. Insulin's job is to get blood sugar out of the bloodstream. Glucagon's job is to put sugar back in the bloodstream. You're fasting. You don't have any energy in your bloodstream. Glucagon comes out to start cueing the body to get energy into your bloodstream. Now, 8 hours for insulin to go down. Glucagon's a little timid, like, oh, that dictator's been out and he beats me over the head. Glucagon takes a couple hours to come out after insulin goes down. Then once glucagon is out and free to do its job, now it takes another couple hours for the body's processes to go, oh, hey, insulin is gone, glucagon is here, human growth hormone goes up, ketones go up. We're now knowing that there's no more food sugar in the body. We have to start pulling fat to convert it back into glucose so that we can have energy. So glucagon is helping us with this fat burning. That doesn't start happening. The HGH and ketones don't start happening until hour 12, hour 8 for insulin to go down, hour 10 for glucagon to come up, hour 12 for HGH and ketones to start coming out. And then a couple hours later, these are just round numbers, but about hour 14, HGH and ketones actually start having an effect on your body. Now you're starting to burn fat for fuel. Now, between hours 14 and hour 16, you have some great fat burning. Some people like to push that 16 hours to 18 hours and still have 2 meals in a 6-hour window. Great. They're just getting 4 more hours of that fat, or 2 more hours of that fat burning than a 16-8 fast. I hope that makes sense. So, what we're doing when we're fasting is we're allowing our body to stop needing insulin and glucagon constantly, or insulin and glucose constantly, and then we're allowing it to utilize glucagon and understand that it can live on fat for fuel. Interesting thing is, in protein is not just protein. Protein is a building block for things like muscle, right? But a certain amount of protein also breaks down into an energy source, a different form of glucose that the body can use. So this is how carnivores are surviving. Am I an advocate for carnivore For the people that it fits, yeah. Do I think that everybody needs to do it? No. But that's how they're getting the glucose is it's actually being pulled from the protein, the animal protein that they're eating. Now, fats with that, we'll come back to fats because I want to tell you what healthy fats are, Diane. Um, so those fats that are on the shelf that are marked heart healthy and all the stuff that are omega 6s, trans fats, seed oils, vegetable oils, those are not heart healthy. They are not what's creating health for your heart. The fats that are actually doing good for you are extra virgin olive oil. Make sure that it's not cut and mixed with seed oils because a lot of them are. So you have to be really careful. The cheaper the olive oil, the more likely it is that it's a seed oil with some olive in it. Just know that. If you're buying a $3, $4 bottle of olive oil, it's a seed oil with enough olive oil in it for them to call it olive oil, even though it's not 100% olive oil. So olive oil should be in a dark bottle, generally a dark green bottle, because it oxidizes with light. Things that don't oxidize with light are seed oils. They have a high flash point. They don't break down very easily when you cook them, and that's why they're used in restaurants so much. But those seed oils, and I will keep saying this till the day I die, but a man named Rockefeller developed them as a machine oil, and now we're using them as food oil. Yeah, that's probably not a good idea. And the high prevalence of those omega 6s is what's causing inflammation in the body that can spike insulin resistance. So, the oils you want to look for are extra virgin olive oils, avocado oil, coconut oil, butter, ghee, and your animal fats. And guess what? Here's a big thing. Stop taking the yolks out of your eggs. Yes, the egg white is where the protein is, and the yolk contains more of the carbohydrate, right? But you know that, or the fats, sorry, the fats. So, what you should know is that your muscle cells, and it's not just skeletal muscle. So, your heart is a muscle, your liver is a muscle, your kidneys are a muscle, your intestines are muscles. All of those muscle cells have a membrane that hold them together, that gives them structure. Guess what that membrane is made up of? Does anybody know what that membrane that holds your muscle together is? It's made up of fat. So when you're doing high protein, low fat diets, you're putting the whole structure of the muscle you're trying to build at risk because the membrane holding the muscle together is becoming brittle and not flexible when you don't have a good amount of fat in your diet. So all these people that are like, there's one, she's lovely, and I know she's doing what her heart tells her is right. So I never go in and say anything because it's not my place at that point, right? But she's telling people, oh, get rid of that avocado and add a piece of Ezekiel toast or add of this or that. All she's concerned about is calories, really. But uh, we're not talking about the health of a balance of protein and fats. And there's been a lot of controversy. I've had to do a lot of research, and I have not found any real good specific numbers. But doctors like Dr. Bickman, who's a top metabolic scientist, will tell you it's about 1 to 1 fat to protein ratio. So there's that. All right. But fasting is not going to cost your muscle. Now, why we talk about fasting so much is it is crucial to get you insulin sensitive. The truth is, you guys, we were never meant, we were not built, we're not meant, we were not created to eat all day long like we do. We have taken something that's sustenance, that gives us life, that gives us energy, that gives us fuel, and turned it into something that's a pleasure. And we're focused on the pleasure of it, which we should enjoy our food, right? We should enjoy it. But we've got to understand at the root that that food is sustenance. It's giving us nutrients, it's giving us building blocks, it's giving us energy, and that's what it's there for. And when we're overusing it or utilizing the wrong kinds of it, we have a problem happening. This is how we're ending up insulin resistant in today's world. So, after multiple doctors failed me, after the gym bros who tried to write programs and dietary stuff and nutritionists and everybody were not able to fix any of my health issues, I stumbled on this system that I've been using for 3 years, and it's the only thing that changed not only my heart rate, got me off of 13 medications, allowed me to lose 50 pounds, got my insulin sensitivity back, all of that is this. I have a tea. You guys have been seeing me drink my tea because I do actually drink this religiously. Um, a tea in the morning, and I'll talk about the tea in a second. And then I have another tea in the afternoon. Now I do this even when I'm fasting. Even on these 36-12 fasts, I drink this. It gives me satiety. It cues my stomach that, hey, I don't need to eat. It cues my brain, hey, I don't need to eat. It gives me a lot of mental energy, but it gives me a lot of physical energy. And that's where what I do with my day. What time of day you have them doesn't really matter. I have one when I wake up. I have one about in the middle of the afternoon because I don't want to have too much caffeine just before bed, and this has some naturally occurring caffeine. Then I have this pre-meal drink before I eat anything. Now, for most people, it's going to be before your biggest meal of the day with carbohydrates in it. For most people, that's going to be dinner time because that's when you sit down with your family and you have the baked potatoes and you have the bread and you have all those stuff, right? So you have that before then. This helps with a blood sugar spike. It's shown, I said 37%, but there was a recent study where they did it like a waffle syrup and orange juice breakfast, and it reduced blood sugar spikes up to 43% by just having this packet beforehand. So this is really to help with that, with the blood sugar spikes, but it helps with cholesterol control. It helps feed the gut microbiome. So think SIBO that was mentioned yesterday. This is helping straighten out our gut. That's how it's impacting insulin resistance by controlling blood sugars, giving us energy back so our body's not falsely thinking it needs energy when we have a ton of energy that we just need to utilize. What's the best to exercise if fasting? So let's talk about that. On a normal 16-8 fast, I would exercise during after I fasted for at least 10 to 12 hours. So in the morning, after not having eaten since dinner is when I would train, because now I have a little bit of insulin sensitivity going on. Now when my muscles utilize that, uh, are working hard, they're going to be open and hungry. They're going to be those little Pac-Men ready to take in glucose if I eat it later, or any energy source that I'm eating later. And so in that probably 12 to 14 hour period is when I would work out, if you want to really time it, but just do it when you're fasted, when you haven't eaten, just before you train. So if you're eating breakfast and lunch and fasting through dinner, maybe you're going to work out before bed, which I never think is a good idea because you're raising your cortisol, blah blah blah. Training in the morning I think is much better, but that's when you're going to do it. On a 36-12 fast, that's where I was going to go earlier. For me, what I do is I set it up. Now, being smart, and I want everyone to think when they do stuff. I want you to think things through and not just do, okay? So I'm like, okay, I'm doing this 36-12 fast. I'm eating on this day, I'm fasting on this day. Obviously, for me, after a 36-hour fast is not when I want to go pick up heavy weights and do that kind of strenuous exercise. So, like this morning, I'll be doing some somatic and yoga type exercise, maybe standing on one of the shake plates that helps get lymph moving throughout my body. I'll do something like that. When I train heavier, when I'll do weights or more strenuous exercise, will be tomorrow after I've eaten for a full day and fasted for 10 to 12 hours. That's about the perfect window for me to work out. Now, working out tomorrow night heavy will be more challenging because my body's starting to be in this burning stuff up mode. There will be less energy for my muscles to actually work off of. So, in a 36-12 fast, I do a yoga or gentler exercises the morning of the day I'll eat. I'll do my heavier exercises the morning after I've eaten, but I've fasted for 10 to 12 hours. I hope that helps. So all we're doing is we're trying to allow the muscles to get energy into them. The more we can get energy into the muscles and less of it floating around in the rest of the bloodstream, the rest of the cells in the body are not so inundated with it and can start to take in more normal amounts. So we're just allowing the energy to go to the muscle instead of being shut down by all the other cells. I hope that makes sense. So with that, guys, that's the talk this morning. But so many of you have talked about, I want to try the system. Look, here's the thing with the system, 3 drinks, we're not doing any meal replacements. What we're doing is just giving you back nutrients that are missing from our food so that we can actually metabolize our food correctly. Okay. So what we're doing is we're just giving the right fuel to our body for it to function right. So in your car, you can't just fill it up with gas all the time and never change the oil. Okay. Your car will break down, even though you're putting gas in it, the energy source. If you never change that oil and clean it out, your car will break down. That's what fasting is. We're changing the oil when we fast. Okay. We're stopping this incessant fuel and we're changing the oil in our body and allowing some cleanup to happen so that our body can continue to function. The system is giving me nutrients. So the tea has every vitamin and mineral needed to sustain life. It has antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, anti-cancer properties, gives me a ton of energy, helps me feel full even when I'm not eating. I just fasted for 2 days. First day was just these 3 products and water. The second day was these 3 products and some butter to try and tell my body we're using fat for fuel. We want to get some of this stores out of the rest of the body. We want to give some relief to the heart. Now I'll eat today. So I'll still do the same thing today. I'll have a tea in the morning, which I'm drinking now. I'll have a tea this afternoon. For me, I have this before anything I eat. I still drink it on my fasting days. Why do I do this on my fasting days? Because this has prebiotics in it. I didn't know all of this stuff when I started, you guys. I had no idea. This has been a 3-year discovery for me. Okay. But I talked to Dr. Bickman because I did a crazy thing. I'm always doing crazy things. I fasted for 10 days. And I was like, on the 10-day fast, I was like, I'm going to see what happens. Because at that time, nobody was talking about, did this break your fast? So ketones, our sugars go up when we're eating, and that spikes our insulin. So if our blood sugars are high, typically our insulin's going to be high. If our blood sugars are low, that's when we've just talked about ketones can come out. So I measure my ketones more than my blood sugars because even without eating, your blood sugars rise and fall. That's something we haven't talked about yet today. Even in a fasted state, your blood sugars are continually rising and falling as your body's doing its job. I use a little blood ketone monitor. I don't use a urine ketone monitor, and I check my ketones. But what I found is when I added this in during that fast, my ketones were almost doubling. So I went to Dr. Bickman, the author of Why We Get Sick, and I said, hey, like, first of all, fangirl moment, like any celebrity in the world that I could meet, that this is the one I would want to meet. Like this metabolic scientist, yeah, that's how I live my life. That's my life. Anyway, I asked him what happened. Why did my ketones go up when I had the fiber during a fasting period? And he thought for a second, and he was like, you know what? It's probably the short chain fatty acids. And I'm like, the what? The what? Yeah, I didn't know either. Short chain fatty acids. So I call it off gassing. When the good microbiome in your gut feed on fiber, they create something, an off gassing called short chain fatty acids that cues us to release more ketones and utilize fat for fuel more. So for the purposes of insulin sensitivity, having this fiber packet during my fasting window is actually training my body more to utilize fat for fuel and get off of the sugar train so much. So yes, I still do this when I do a 36-12 fast because of that. Not just because of that, because I want to continue to feed those good gut microbiome. When we understand that our microbiome affects our bone density, our immunity, our dopamine use and storage for our brain. All of that happens in the gut. And so our gut needs to be healthy. So I do this on my fasting days. I do it every time before I eat on a fed day like today. And then this I do every day anyway. This this one, GLP-1, uh, glucagon-like peptide 1. So let's break that down. Glucagon-like. So glucagon is a hormone that's telling us to raise blood sugars and get energy into the system. Glucagon-like peptide is is somewhat simulating that, but what it's doing is it's giving you energy to the brain. It's giving you a little bit of distension and satiety in the gut. It's giving you some energy, but the glucagon like peptide 1 that we normally produce is dampened when we're under the rule of the dictator insulin. So we're not producing as much glucagon like peptide 1 when we're insulin resistant. Interesting note, this particular tea, this form of yerba mate tea, will increase glucagon-like peptide 1 naturally by 70% in your own body. So now you're getting more satiety. And one of the things that we have when we're insulin sensitive, insulin resistant, is we have the inability to feel satiated. We never feel full. We're always hungry. This is eliciting glucagon like peptide 1, which allows us to finally feel some relief from that constant hunger. So that's gold. Why this tea? It goes through a 5-step process, but at the bottom line, it has 375 times more of chlorogenic acids in it than any standard yerba mate tea, making it highly efficient. But it's also been really purified. So now we don't have pesticides and toxins in this that you're getting in all those other teas. So way more concentrated, giving you way more bang for your buck. Plus, I don't know if you guys know, mate is the cup, yerba is the plant. So yerba mate is basically you take the ground up stems and leaves and put them in a cup and you compact it and then you push it all to one side and then you pour water in the open side, and it's a long process of continually steeping this tea and drinking little bits at a time. So now what we've done is we have that same tea, all the benefits of that tea in a packet that you can just tear open and pour in a bottle of water and shake it up and go. So when I'm traveling, which I didn't travel this last year because I just needed a break. I was traveling so much, but I just put this in my purse wherever I go. I have some in my car, but this is with me without fail. And it's easy because that doesn't take up much room in my purse. But if I'm out and about and I get a little bit like I'm low on energy, I'll have a tea. If I'm going to have something to eat, I just have this. If I'm having nausea because I'm a little bit hungry and I don't want to eat out, I'll have this because it helps that. So this is helping me with blood sugar spikes. This is the one thing that helped me reverse my diabetes and my hypertension. Where you can get it, and it's so super simple, you guys. There's no specific diet you have to follow. We'll talk about that, but where you're going to get it is in my profile link. There's a link there. You can either get a hold of me personally and ask me more questions, or you can order, or you can go to my website and read more about my story if you want. Hey David, it's good to see you. I haven't been on TikTok much, so I haven't seen your face in a while. Okay, so all of that. David, you threw me off. It's one of those mornings. I'm going to be about done, you guys. We were talking about fasting this morning. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Please ask questions. Sometimes I just riff off of the things that I've seen in the day that I'm just like so blown away. And I was literally blown away by the people coming at Dr. Mindy Pelz for saying train fasted. Again, she's not saying go out and lift heavy weights after you fasted for 10 days. She's saying simply let your stomach be empty so that your muscles can be open to the fuel you'll put in later so you can increase your insulin sensitivity. It's not going to deplete your muscle at all. At all. We're built for this. David knows. I know. Our we're both Native American, and in my family history, one of the things that's happened with why natives have such a hard time with all of this world is we're not used to all this food and we're not used to eating in this manner. Yeah, we had times of feast and then we had times of famine, and our bodies are built to live through that and survive through that and thrive through that. And that's not what we're giving it today. And that's why we're sick. Fasting, in my opinion, it took me a long time to get it, but intermittent fasting, short period of fasting, I think is absolutely necessary for our lives today. You've been fasting from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. That's perfect. That's amazing. So, Oscar, in that timeline, then you're actually getting that increase of HGH and ketones. Now, the key is, what do you eat to break your fast? So, I said I was going to get off, and I will in just a minute. But cue here. When you break your fast, like when I have my fast today, it's been super important for me. Like, oh yeah, I could have whatever I wanted. But I'm like, no, you're going to stop and you're going to have protein and you're going to have fats. Because now what I'm telling my body is, number one, that I'm still focused on burning fat for fuel. And number two, I'm giving it the building blocks that it needs after that fast. So I've been fasting for 2 days, with the exception of butter for one day. But my body wants fuel and it wants building blocks now. So, do I want to go pick up a bagel, a pancake, a waffle, a breakfast sandwich, any of that stuff? No. I want protein, I want fats. And then if I want to have carbohydrates in a few hours, 1 or 2 o'clock this afternoon, I can. But I'm going to shut it down tonight in the same way, protein and fats, because when I'm done with the day today, I want my body to feel satiated. I don't want to spike the blood sugar that's going to take me longer to get into a fasting period. And I don't want to create this hunger that sugar causes so that I have a harder time on my fast tomorrow. And by the way, caveat, that's what happened to me a couple of days. A couple of days on my fed days, I was like, oh, I get to eat whatever I want. And so I had a little too many carbohydrates. And the next fasting day was hard because my body was wanting all of that sugar again. So, how you break your fast is just as important as the fast itself. Make sure you're filling up with protein and fats first. Remember, your body's going to get some carbohydrate or some glucose, not carbohydrate, glucose from that protein. There's no carbohydrate in protein, but it's going to get some glucose from that. It's going to get you some energy. So make sure you're stopping your fast with protein. So one of the favorite things that I've leaned into lately is that viral egg boil. So I boil a bunch of eggs on my fasting day. I'll boil 8 to 12 eggs. And then on my fed day, one of my first meals generally is those 4 to 5 of those boiled eggs in a broth that's made with some chicken stock, some whole cream, some butter, and some spices. And it's yummy. It's satiating. Now I just gave my body a lot of protein and some fats. And now my body says, oh, this is the fuel we want to run on. And my body craves less sugar because of it. Okay. Why no butter? I didn't say no butter. Lori, I love butter. So I don't know what I said that triggered you to think I was saying no butter. Butter is amazing. So I put butter in that broth for my eggs that I'll have this morning. Um, I don't know if I think I have a picture of them, but anyway, yeah, I love butter. Butter is an amazing tool. And in fact, I was listening to Dr. Bosworth, and she talked about eating only butter for a day. I'm really focused on getting my heart healthy. So I fasted with just the tea and the fiber one day. The next day I had the tea, the fiber, and I added in butter every time I felt hungry. For her, what she's saying is that teaches us how to feel satiated, because when we're fed with sugar, most of us don't understand what it feels like to feel satiated. Butter is highly satiating. It's not clogging your arteries. It's not giving you cholesterol. Oh my God, that's a whole other topic. We'll talk about fats tomorrow. But I love butter, Lori. I have butter is my primary source of fat. Okay. Outside of animal fats. I have some olive oil. I really use butter more than anything to cook with, hands down. The steak that I'm going to have later today will be seared in butter and spices, and then the rest of it will be baked until it's the doneness that I want. But it's heavy on the butter, the fats in that steak. It gives it a ton of energy, of flavor, and gives me the fats that I need to have with that high amount of protein. Okay, so absolutely, I love butter. I don't know what I said that triggered that. I hope that clears it up though. Okay. All right, you guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe please send the link. Let's send it right here. Oop. I did something weird. All right. The link to order over on Facebook, YouTube, I just sent it. So you can find it there. You're allergic to bovine products, milk, beef, butter. Oh, avocados, olive oil replace the butter. Yes. Coconut oil is another good one. I have a dear friend that we talk a lot about health and stuff. He has a buddy who wrote this book, 25 Days. You guys, I did this earlier this year, 25 Days Celebrity Trainer. But anyway, we talk a lot about health and workouts and food and stuff. And I was talking to him about doing the butter day. And he mentioned that he uses coconut oil. And I've done coconut oil too. Harder for me to ingest coconut oil than butter. Um, MCT oils, if you're really looking for heart health, MCT oils are a derivative of the coconut oil, so the really beneficial part of the coconut oil. You're getting some in coconut oil, but if you really want to amp that up, use MCT oils and put that in your tea, your coffee, whatever. Um, these oils are hard, like coconut oil is harder to cook with because it will sear and or not sear, it will burn quicker than other oils. So you have to cook on a little bit lower heat, which is actually really good for us. We shouldn't be cooking on such high heats anyway. But yes, avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil are all uh, great solutions for you. Now, Diane, I used to be allergic to beef, so I didn't eat beef for a long, long time. Um, I haven't had any problems with it, and I eat a steak a day now. I eat at least a steak a day. Like if I can, I'll eat 2 steaks a day or steak and some high quality ground beef, but I'm not sensitive to beef anymore. I really feel like no scientific data behind it, nothing just other than my own thoughts that um, Yvette. So I'm on TikTok and I put videos up every day. I'm also on Facebook. You guys, I have a group that I just with my own health issues, I wasn't as involved, but I'm opening that group back up now. So on Facebook, there's a group called Beating Insulin Resistance. I will be putting information in there and putting these lives in there more now. Starting this week, I'll have that back opened up, but check into the group Beating Insulin Resistance. You'll find me at Brilliant Health here on Facebook. And I put out reels. But if you just want community and to be able to ask me questions and have me give you content based on what your concerns are, just go join the Beating Insulin Resistance group. And we'll talk about all things insulin resistance in there and the ways that I'm overcoming it. So that would be a great place for everybody to kind of go join. Love TikTok, love all you guys on TikTok, but it's not great for community outside of these lives. So let's have an insulin resistance community. If you guys want to dive more in, just join that group in Facebook. It doesn't cost anything. I'm doing the same thing I'm doing here, but it will just give you more direct access to me. So Beating Insulin Resistance on Facebook. And then I'm also on Instagram. I've got to get that up and running better. I have some stuff on X, but probably the most consistent places are going to be Facebook and TikTok until I get Instagram built up. And Facebook predominantly because we have the opportunity to create a community where you can ask and talk with other people who are suffering with the same things and get some answers. So that's really where I would go with that. I hope that helps. So I'm going to type it in over here on, and hopefully you guys can find it. And I do apologize. It's not been, I have not been consistent in there because of taking care of my own health issues, but I'm opening it back up now. Okay. All right, you guys, we'll talk to you tomorrow. I think let's talk about fats tomorrow because there's a lot of confusion about fats, what's healthy, what's not healthy, what should we eat, what shouldn't we eat. Like this whole thing again, stop taking the yolks out of your eggs. If you're an egg eater, eat the yolk in your egg. I don't care about the fats. I don't care about the calories. those calories from the yolk are not going to cause you to gain weight. It's the calories from the Ezekiel bread and all the other crap you add in that are going to cause the weight gain. So stop being afraid of fat. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Have a great day, you guys. Thanks. You guys are so amazing. By the way, I want to tell you, I love this tribe because y'all are so great with asking questions, being respectful, and just really ready to take care of your health. And that's what I'm all about. So I appreciate all of you. We'll talk to you tomorrow.